so finally I've set up. It's taken me about 15 minutes. It's gorgeous out here. I've started using my phone for some of the videos, and the tripod is, I've got this three-legged, obviously it's a tripod, but the legs you can bend. So I've essentially wrapped you around a tree branch at the moment. I have shot here before. I think my second ever video was out here, but I was pointing the camera in the other direction. So there's a couple of things I wanted to touch on. Would you die for what you believe in? Like, genuinely, you know what you think is true. Would you die for that? I was going to say something I truly believe in is the truth, but standing up for what you think is right. And what is right is subjective. It changes from person to person. But standing up for that means you can live a life without regrets. You're not going to look back and say, I wish I'd done that, I wish I'd done this. I think it's so easy to numb your intuition, and that's encouraged often in social settings and by others who are doing the same thing. It's been made to seem like a whimsical thing to trust your intuition or trust your gut or follow the feeling. We forget that we're living in an impossibility. You're living on a rock. I know it's a classic one that everyone says, a rock floating through space. But even then, you think that you have an idea of what space is, or why, or how, right? We kind of simplify things. So when you ask enough questions, you can filter down any question, and the answer will always be, I don't know, we don't know. So we put things in like a higher level, like a surface level. So we have things in this more like fluffed, softer, not as deep level, so we can communicate and we can get things across, and that's great. But even me saying you're floating on a rock through space, it's an attempt to invoke that feeling in you of truly, here's a paradox, of truly grasping that you don't grasp anything, that we don't actually have an understanding. We can just make the best with what we have. There's such a narrative being pushed, from my experience growing up in the UK, but it seems to be similar in a lot of Western countries, where there's an over-dependency on logic when the logic doesn't suffice for said thing, right? So if we're talking about reality in spiritual terms, or meaning, religion, experience, these kind of things, logic works when we're calculating, when we're experimenting, when we're getting results, when we're testing. This is something that when I was studying physics, it really sunk in for me. Something just switched in my brain. I was reading the time span in which the universe was created, and it's 0.00000, like 30 something zeros of a second. And I just thought, how does someone grasp that? Well, they don't. Like, this is my issue with it, is it's taught by media and by education as if it is gospel, where really it's a testing ground. They're still experimenting. They're just theories. No one knows. Obviously, as you delve further into this, when you become a physicist, that's part of the game. Even then, there's a lot of ego attached to it, and people saying this is how it is. The correct blend is having an awareness and using philosophy as well with physics, right? Because otherwise you become blinded to the fact you're still using the limited human senses of your limited experience to try and explain the experience itself, okay? You're within something, trying to use the tools within that system to experiment the whole, okay? Imagine you've coded a computer and inside there's an AI being that exists, and you could tell it what an apple is, but unless it's grasped an apple with touch, feeling and taste, apple is just ones and zeros to that computer. Like the word apple. This is, maybe I don't know if that's the best way to explain it, but I'm trying to give the example of things within, how absurd it is that then with such certainty we use that to explain away or remove meaning or whatever. The reason I talk about this a lot is because finding a connection with meaning has been so important in my life, and how meaningless my life felt for many years, and how that was actually reinforced by the system I was in. What you have is so many jaded people, right? So many people who they don't believe in a God or whatever religion, but they've never actually given it deep thought. They've never really sat with it and thought it through. This is fine. Many people don't want to, but it's strange how we've become so detached from spirituality, from the nature of religion, from creation, from authorship. Everyone is spoon-fed through media and have had their authorship taken away. One of the most empowering things that I've gone through and continue to go through is realizing my own experience is as valuable as anyone else's, as equally valuable, and I can come to my own conclusions from my own experiences. And there's no tier list, there's no my experience is now invalid. That doesn't mean you become closed off to people's opinions. That doesn't mean you become closed off to evidence. That is part of your experience. If evidence is provided, you could change your opinion. But deciding things philosophically, spiritually, based on your experience is extremely important to living your own life fully, feeling fully. We see this disconnection so much. I have a adversity to cities, the concept of cities. There's always these dualities in life. So the duality I said earlier was really grasping that you don't understand anything. So the paradox there is you understand that you don't understand anything. And in cities, I think there's a duality where it's ironic how people are so densely packed, yet they're so detached, right? Communally. And this detachment is being spread through mobile phones as well, through social media, where people aren't engaging around them. They're being told things by other people and they neglect their own experience. They almost are on autopilot. Everything I talk about is because I've experienced things on different degrees and I've witnessed these things in my life, right? I've also gone through that autopilot where I felt like I was just getting by or just getting through. And it's taken a long time, a lot of realization, a lot of trusting my experience for what it was instead of telling myself something else. A lot of our own doubt, a lot of our fears have been given to us. And this is something that's hard to get across to people. But when I try and explain to people, why would you have a fear, for example, leaving your job? Oh yeah, but I need money to survive. The issue then is you can't even differentiate that fear from reality because you've been told that fear so many times. You've been told that thing so many times that you've accepted that as the way it is. You've lost touch with your own conclusion that you would come to if you'd experienced this world without being fed other things and other realities. It's absurd that you can't just go and live somewhere off-grid and live off the land. You have no choice. You have to be part of this system if you live here. And again, you didn't choose this. People kind of decide, yeah, well, I think we're better off. What is better off? If you're not happy day to day and you have moments of maybe feeling okay, or maybe you get drunk at the weekend and you feel kind of good, or you look forward to like having a takeaway, and you've signed away your 9 to 5, you signed away 70% of your waking hours for a paycheck so you can just survive and carry on doing that. If that 9 to 5 fulfills you, that's great. There's so many people that have that. If you love your job, for example, for me, it's being outside. My current work doesn't allow me to do that as much as I want to, which is a reason for me to pivot. I'm following that instinct. I want to feel alive, which means I need time to be outside where I want to be living. If I neglected that part of myself, that's going to build as resentment against me, against the world for years and years. And for however long I choose to neglect that, it can also then lead to depression, meaninglessness, right? Because you've not trusted your intuition. And this is the danger. The longer you ignore your intuition, the more difficult it is to find again. It's like a rope leading you. It's like a string leading you through the snow, and you pick it up and you're following it. And then someone says, go this way. Someone says, go that way. And you're like, oh, okay, sure. And you leave it, and then the string gets lost into oblivion. Bad metaphor. It's the concept that I'm trying to get across. It's the concept that by ignoring your intuition, it's harder to then pick up to the point where you almost can't find it. And if you're engaging in behaviors that make you feel unwell, you won't even be able to tell what is your intuition anymore. Okay? If you're in a state of fear, anxiety, lack, loss, all of these things, you can't feel your intuition. It has to be curated. You need to take care of yourself. And then your intuition becomes stronger because it becomes so clear what is meant for you. Maybe you love talking to people. Maybe you love helping people. Maybe you love being outside. Maybe you love physical work, right? And over time, these things will become more clear to you, and you can begin to build a life that is meant for you. It's insane the depth of conformity that is pushed on people. I remember school, I hated it being there. I hate it. Any sense of expressing yourself is crushed out. A part of that, a massive part of that, for example, is just uniform in general, right? And following set exams where there's only one correct answer. You're following some forced pattern. Who's decided those things? Many, many people struggle and fail at school hugely and go on to live fulfilled, successful, happy lives. But you do that by following your own path, not following a path you've been told you're meant to take. And the thing is, this realization can be painful depending on how many years you've lived that way, depending how long, how much further down the rabbit hole you've gone. And you either continue to ignore it and go further, or at some point you go, wait a second, this is my life. There's no time. This is your life now. An example I try and use with people is think about COVID. We're fairly lucky that it wasn't far more deadly. It could have wiped out 50% of the population. What if it wiped out 75%? Who knows? Suddenly this entire system that you've been living a 9 to 5 for, that you don't want to do, you've been following a path that isn't actually yours, that you haven't actually chosen, has led you where? Because then the system collapsed. You can have huge things happen in your life, a loved one pass away, an injury, health, all sorts. And then you'll have to wake up and you'll go, wait a second, what on earth am I doing? I only live this life once. You can know these things, but until they sink in through experience, it's hard to really change. I think what you can do to help is sit with these feelings and sit with these thoughts and let it sink in. This is the truth. You're living once. You have your subjective experience. Start to slowly unpick the wires that have been forced onto you unknowingly, to the point now where it's just how you engage with reality. Follow your truth. Follow what's true for you. I just genuinely want to see everyone live, fully. I want to see people live true for themselves. You're so much more capable than you've been led to believe, because you know it. Deep down, you know it. You wonder why things feel slightly off. Why is this not feeling true to me? Why do I feel like I'm just getting through? You're not meant to just get through your life. There's nothing at the end waiting for you. You don't get somewhere one day and go, I've made it. You don't retire and go, brilliant, I've made it to retirement. No. You will wake up the same way you've woken up every day for your whole life and feel how you feel now, which is awareness. And you can choose to engage in your reality and trust that feeling, or you could ignore it and you can follow that path and see where it leads you. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate you being here, as always. I wish you all the best. Trust yourself. If that's one note I can leave it on. So I'd say trust yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and for being here. Please leave a comment if you got this far. It means everything to me. So yeah, alright, catch you soon.